How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? I hope you're all doing well. Today is October 25th, which means patch 7.1 just hit the live servers a couple hours ago. Now, many of you, myself included, are frustrated with the current state of Hunter, and this patch didn't buff Beast Mastery or Marksmanship at all. However, Survival did get some juicy buffs, and this has prompted a large amount of players to try and switch over and try out the spec. Now, Survival, in my opinion, is a very challenging spec to play, and an even harder one to master. So I think most players that are new are going to be utterly confused and hopelessly lost out the gate with no idea how to start. So that's why today we're going to do a brand new survival guide updated for patch 7.1. And in it, I'm going to assume that you have little to no experience with the spec, and we'll be trying to simplify the survival formula as much as possible. So we're not going to get into anything on a super granular level. This is going to be a high-level overview, and here's the agenda. So we are going to overview the spec first, talk about the pros and cons of a survival hunter. Then we'll get into the talents, honor talents. We will spend a good chunk of time going through the rotation and boiling it down to its essence, because with any rotation it's going to be conditional, right? It's going to change on the conditions you're in, and it's going to be dynamic. So we're going to go through a couple different scenarios and boil it down to its core, and then finish with a discussion on the artifact path. And that's going to be it for this video, and then in subsequent videos we can do some arena play or whatever you guys want. So get yourself a coffee, a soda, strap in, and let's get going. Welcome to the wonderful world of survival, my dude. Here's your trusty polearm. Congratulations, you have now joined the cesspool of melee classes. But you keep your pet. Okay, so firstly, let me say that I think the survival playstyle overall is a bit awkward, both mechanically and from a class fantasy perspective. Having to melee on your stings feels super weird, and Wing Clip basically being a gimped version of Hamstring on the global cooldown makes me die inside each time I use it. However, the more time I spent playing survival, the more I got into it, and eventually found it oddly satisfying. Let's take a look at the pros and cons. The first pro, and probably the biggest pro, is more control. You have all your traps back, explosive trap, freezing trap, tar trap, so that's a huge plus. Plus you also have abilities like a net that you can throw on people with a very short cooldown, as well as the ability to harpoon in and close the distance with people. You also have Master's Callback, if you guys remember that pet ability, and you can cast it on anyone. It removes all root and movement impairing effects, which is a big deal. The downside is that you have no stun. So let me repeat that. As a survival hunter, you are unable to stun people. You have no stun. No stun. No stun-a-reno. Okay. So the second pro, though, is that you do a ton of damage. And I think post 7.1, I think you probably do more damage than Beast Mastery. I haven't tested it versus Marksmanship. I know Marksmanship got a small nerf. I think it was a 5% nerf to aim shot. But you do a ton of damage, which is nice. And the third pro is that you excel more with the team due to more control and utility. The main problem you have as a Beast Mastery hunter, at least, is that you have very little to contribute to the team overall as far as utility. And the cooldown on your traps is pretty short, and the ability to throw nets and bounce around the map is really nice. So getting into the cons. The biggest con for me is less survivability. I think you have way less survivability as a survival hunter. The only defensive you have, other than Turtle, which pretty much renders you useless because you don't even have the aspect of the turtle heal anymore, is Roar of Sacrifice. Yeah, so it seems when you say it like that, it seems pretty pathetic. You only have Roar of Sacrifice as a defensive. Other than that, you are going to be a mail wearer in melee range taking massive chunk damage to the facial region. So that sucks. You don't have the kill command heal anymore. You do have a Raptor Strike heal, which is, in my build, we're going to rely on that quite heavily to stay alive. You don't have the aspect of the turtle heal anymore. That 40% was super juicy. But you do have this band-aid thing that removes bleeds, poisons, and diseases, which is really good versus Assassination Rogue, which is uber strong right now in the meta. But you won't be able to get the heal most times because it works just like a band-aid, and if you're attacked, it'll cancel. So, yeah. The second con is that you really don't have a good way to escape or reset. You do have a stealth option in the form of camouflage, but you can only use that when you're out of combat, so it's tough to get off. And you kind of feel like a one-trick pony at times. You can't really... You can close the distance on people pretty easily by harpooning in and throwing nets on them, but you don't have like disengage anymore or anything. And the third con is that you're pretty dependent on others to survive. I think you have very limited survivability on your own. You're definitely less self-reliant than compared to a Beastmaster Hunter or something. So yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the talents and honor talents now. So for your level 15 choice, I choose Way of the Mok'Nathal. Many survival hunters, especially prior to 7.1, have argued against this talent. They don't think it's very good. They think squeezing in Raptor Strike is awkward, it doesn't do enough damage, it's hard to stack it up to 4 times, and that throwing axes is better. Before 7.1, I would agree with them. But after 7.1, after Raptor Strike received a 100% damage bonus, and in this build in particular, we're going to be using Raptor Strike quite a lot to survive because it's kind of our only sustainable heal. I like to equate it to the kill command heal. That's the parallel for BM. So I think this is going to give you some good value. Not the most insane value ever, because I agree it's going to be hard to stack it up to 4 times, but I think that the attack power stack is going to be worth it here. Also, as a newer survival hunter, having to manage another ability and cooldown is going to be a nightmare, so we're going to try and prevent that as much as possible. So I think Way of the Mok'Nathal is the correct choice here. For the level 30 talent choice, a Murder of Crows is the highest single target damage. I think you would choose this in almost every situation. Level 45, this is a very solid tier. So you're going to choose a different thing depending on who you're up against. Post Haste as a survival hunter makes it so Harpoon frees you from all movement impairing effects. Harpoon is the ability where you shoot a harpoon at someone and it drags you to them. So in a way, it's kind of the opposite of disengage. So this can be good. Post Haste did get nerfed though in this patch. So Far Strider is very good against like mages and people that you need to catch up with a lot. You're having a hard time stick to, because what Far Strider does is it makes your critical strikes have a 10% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Harpoon, and this happens quite a lot. So you can just Harpoon over and over again, and this is a very good talent. Trailblazer is what I've been rocking. They just added this in 7.1. This is brand new. And Trailblazer makes it so your movement speed is increased by 30% anytime you have an attack for 3 seconds. So even if you're taking damage, if you have an attack for 3 seconds, you have a movement speed increase. And I like this a lot. Okay, so for the level 60 talent choice, I like Improved Traps here. There is a build for Caltrops where you go stealth and you start with Tar Trap and Caltrops, and there definitely is a time and place for Caltrops, but I don't think it fits with this build, and I'm not a huge fan of that build in general. Steel Trap, I don't like. A lot of people choose Steel Trap because it does a lot of damage, and it does. Look at it. I mean, it's basically a freezing trap that deals 404,655 bleed damage over 30 seconds. That's a lot of damage, but the major downside is it makes your freezing trap have a 1-minute cooldown, and to me that's just unacceptable. When I CC someone, I'm not trying to CC them and push damage on them. I'm trying to CC them so I can push damage on someone else or whatever. So I'm really not a fan of Steel Trap. Maybe some of you guys in the comments can sell me on it, but not a huge fan of this. I like improved traps. This reduces the cooldown of freezing traps by 15% and the cooldown of your other traps by 50%. And all of your traps are very useful, so I think this is for sure the way to go. The level 75 choice is usually between Sticky Bomb or Camouflage. Camouflage is good when you want to have when it's going to be advantageous for you to get a great opener in arena, and more often than not, that is going to be the case. Having a great opener allows you to start the fight with a freezing trap or a tar trap or whatever. It gives you a lot of flexibility. Sticky Bomb is also good. So if I'm up against a couple casters, this is actually a knockback. And if it's not that important to get the perfect opener on them, and I can just Harpoon in or whatever, maybe against an Elemental Shaman, I like Sticky Bomb a lot here. Ranger's Net's good, has a time and place. It's another net ability, so this is good as well. But you're just gonna have to choose the right one based on who you're up against. The level 90 choice, no one's gonna argue with me here. Dragon's Fire Grenade is the best. It does a ton of damage. It's bound to number 1 on my action bar. It also applies a movement reduction of 20%. Butchery sucks, and Serpent Sting is laughable. For the level 100 talent, I like Expert Trapper here. This is kind of an underwhelming tier for me. Spitting Cobra, it's okay. Nothing to write home about. Aspect of the Beast, I don't like it because it only applies this debuff or whatever when you use Flanking Strike, and to me Flanking Strike's the lowest priority ability to use, so I don't run Aspect of the Beast, I run Expert Trapper. And the main reason I run Expert Trapper, the freezing trap buff doesn't really do much for me, but I like the explosive trap buff, and you use explosive trap a lot, so basically it just improves your traps slightly. So yeah, now we'll get into the honor talents. So you guys know this first tier. I choose gladiators most times. For the second tier, you guys all probably know this tier as well. If you're up against melee, sparring is going to mitigate the most damage. If you're up against casters, reinforced armor might be better. Hardiness, blows. The third tier, this is similar to BM or whatever hunter spec you are. You're going to choose cat-like reflexes if you're up against melee physical damage dealers that are going to be critting you, because this mitigates the most damage. Survival tactics versus classes that are going to apply magical debuffs or damage over time abilities, because this is your dispel option. Also, this fourth tier is probably the most important. You have to melee your stings on again, which is really awkward and weird, and it doesn't even make sense to a certain extent. But choose Spider Sting if you're up against mages, or if the silence is going to be very valuable. Scorpion Sting is great for mitigating damage against melees, and you need as much survivability as you can get as a survival hunter, ironically. So Scorpion Sting is good versus physical melee damage dealers, or not even melee. It could be hunter as well, right? But Viper Sting is good for reducing healing. So the fifth tier is usually a choice between Mending Bandage or Master's Call. Mending Bandage is really good against like assassination rogues, so you can use it to dispel all their bleeds and poisons. It's really tough to get value from the heal over time, because if you're attacked, it cancels it. But a lot of times that dispel is going to be really valuable, and it's only on a 25-second cooldown. Master's Call is also really good, and this, as we discussed, removes all root and movement impairing effects from itself and the target. So you can use it and it'll remove your pet from a Nova or whatever, or you can cast it on a party member or yourself. And it also grants immunity to all such effects for 4 seconds. So that'll allow you to have uptime, for 4 seconds, pretty much guaranteed. And then the final choice is usually between Tracker's Net and Sticky Tar. I really don't like Diamond Ice. This makes your freezing trap unable to be broken, but it reduces its duration to 5 seconds, and I don't know. I love the CC of freezing trap, so I wouldn't want to reduce the amount of time it can DC people. Tracker's Net is, in my opinion, just better than Sticky Tar. Sticky Tar basically makes your tar trap coat your opponent's gear in tar. I guess it can affect multiple people, so that's the advantage Sticky Tar has, and it slows their melee attack speed by 50% for 5 seconds, which is good. Tracker's Net, though, is doperino. It's only got a 10-second cooldown. You hurl a net at your enemy, it roots them for 6 seconds, and their hit chance is reduced by 80% while inside this net. So this is kind of a defensive in a way. This is nuts. Tracker's Net is really, really good. But if you don't have Tracker's Net, if you can't unlock this talent yet, just choose Sticky Tar. So that's it for the talents and honor talents. Now we'll spend some time on the rotation. Alright dudes, deep breath. I am going to attempt to tackle this survival rotation. And I feel a bit overwhelmed even getting ready to talk about it, but here we go, so try and stick with me. What you see bound here 1 through 5 on this action bar is your priority system, from most important to least important. This is the natural progression. So we're going to go through the skills. First is Dragon's Fire Grenade. Second is Lacerate. Third is Mongoose Bite. Fourth is Raptor Strike. And the fifth is Flanking Strike. But what do these abilities do? Well, let's talk about it. Dragon's Fire Grenade is on a 30-second cooldown. It's free and has a 40-yard range, so I can use it on this thing all the way over there. As you can see, it's a damage over time ability, though. Let me call my pet back. That's super annoying. Alright, so it's a damage over time ability. It deals 319,729 fire damage over 8 seconds, and also reduces the movement speed of the enemy by 20%. So you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're applying a movement slow, and you're doing a ton of damage. So per global, this is like the most valuable thing ever, right? So I usually start with the Dragon's Fire Grenade. What does Lacerate do? So Lacerate's on a 10-second cooldown. It costs focus, so it's not free. It costs focus. And it deals 258,997 physical damage over 12 seconds. So again, worth the global. Definitely worth the global. For that amount of damage, you're spending 1 global for that much damage. Worth it. Unless you're trying to burst down in the short term and this 12-second buff is not going to be relevant, then don't use it, right? So this whole rotation is going to be conditional. It's going to be based on whatever circumstances you're faced with. But yeah, generally this is we're going through things assuming you have full cooldowns, full health versus another full cooldown, full health opponent, and you're just trying to ramp up your damage. So that's what Lacerate does. The third ability is Mongoose Bite. This is your bread and butter. Hits incredibly hard, and this is what it does. So it has you have 3 charges with it in a natural state, and the charges recuperate every 10.8 seconds. So you deal 91,606 physical damage, and more importantly, using this ability grants you a charge of Mongoose Fury. It's not a charge, I guess it's a stack, right? It's a stack of Mongoose Fury, and Mongoose Fury increases subsequent Mongoose Bite damage by 50% for 14 seconds, and stacks up to 6 times. So, also, realize that Mongoose Bite's free, does not cost focus, and you know, that it's definitely it's your bread and butter. It's your Mongoose Bite. It's your bread and butter. All your skills synergize with this skill. But people ask, hey, why don't I just walk up to my target and start Mongoose biting him in the dome, stacking him up? Well, it's free. So generally, the strategy is this: you walk up to your target, you throw out your damage over time abilities, right? Makes sense, and the abilities that cost focus, and then you start smashing them with the free abilities, right? So that way your focus is regenerating. And you'll be able to squeeze out more focus abilities after the Mongoose Bite charges are gone. So that's what Mongoose Bite does. Before I talk about this fourth skill, we'll talk about the artifact talent just super quick. Fury of the Eagle. So Fury of the Eagle is a channeled ability, but you can move while it's channeling. And it deals 303,498 physical damage over the course of its channel. But the main thing to realize here is that the damage is increased by Mongoose Fury. That's why I'm going into it right after Mongoose Bite. So generally, people say you want to stack Mongoose Bite up to 6 times before using this. Well, in an actual real world arena setting, that's not going to happen. So my recommendation would be get your Mongoose Bites up to 2 or 3, and then use it. Then dump this Fury of the Eagle. Get the cooldown going, recharging. But okay, back to the basic rotational abilities. This fourth ability is called Raptor Strike. It's a vicious slash, costs focus, 25 focus, deals 100k damage pretty much, right? So before 7.1, I would agree that this is the lowest priority ability to use, a focus dump behind Flanking Strike. I'd put Flanking Strike ahead of it in terms of priority. But post 7.1, I don't think so. This Raptor Strike got a huge buff, 100% damage buff, so now it does 100k. I guess before it used to do 50k. But it does 100k now, and more importantly, it gives you a lot of sustain through your artifact talent. So let me take a look at the artifact talent. Through this talent right here, Bird of Prey. So this when it's 3 out of 3, makes it so your Raptor Strike heals you for 30% of the damage it deals. So 100k Raptor Strike, you do the math, 30k healing every time you use it. So that's kind of your sustain, and I rely on that heavily when damaging. So that's Raptor Strike, and then Flanking Strike. Flanking Strike is here. Flanking Strike's on a 5.4 second cooldown, and it's a coordinated attack that requires your pet to be out. Your pet can't be dead. Where you deal 108,000 damage yourself, and your pet deals 80,000 damage. So it deals a lot of damage, but you have to realize that it costs focus. It costs 50 focus. It's a lot of focus, and more often than not, I'd rather just have 2 Raptor Strikes, that would deal the same amount of damage, 2 globals, but I'm also healing for 60k in the process, rather than using Flanking Strike, and that's why I put it as the lowest priority. So that's it for the basic rotational abilities. Your offensive abilities include Aspect of the Eagle, Murder of Crows, and your artifact talent, right? Fury of the Eagle. Your defensives include Aspect of the Turtle, Exhilaration, Camouflage, kinda, because it does heal you, but you have to be out of combat to use it. Feign Death, and Roar of Sacrifice, right? And I guess you would consider Tracker's Net a defensive in a way, because it reduces hit chance by 80%. So that's pretty legit. Your Interrupt, if you're curious, is an ability called Muzzle. So you don't have Counter Shot anymore, right? It's kind of just like a pummel, 15-second cooldown. Yeah. So when you're doing your rotation, though, I should note that actually, realistically, the most important thing to put on first is this ability right here, Wing Clip, right? It's just like Hamstring. I do play Warrior as well, so they always tell you when you're a Warrior, get your Hamstring off first, tie it to all your cooldowns, all your abilities and stuff, because it's off the global. Well, Wing Clip is on the global cooldown, as I mentioned before, but you still, unfortunately, have to waste the global applying it to your target. So it reduces speed by 50% for 15 seconds. So yeah, you want to walk up to your target, wing clip him, hit him with Dragon's Fire Grenade, Lacerate, Explosive Trap. These are your damage over time abilities. Start crushing him in the face with Mongoose Bite. Stack it up to 3 times, then use Fury of the Eagle. Then you're probably going to be low at this point because you're a potato, so you're going to probably be recuperating health with Raptor Strike, hitting him. So this is healing me for 47, 48. This is a good amount of healing, man. 51, 25. Yeah. So, and then if you really have nothing to do, use a flanking strike on him. And yeah, so let's talk about the other abilities. You also have Harpoon. This is what Harpoon does. You use it as a pretty large range, 5 to 40 yard range. So you hurl a harpoon at an enemy, and it roots them in place for 3 seconds and pulls you towards them. So let me show you how far away I can use this thing. I can use this from all the way back here. That's pretty nuts, right? So that's what that does. Let's see what else we can cover here. The way your traps work, you already have Trap Launcher activated. Explosive Trap, you can't aim, right? Explosive Trap, when you use Explosive Trap, it just drops it right in front of you. See, I can't really aim it. Whereas Freezing Trap, I can throw it over here. Tar Trap, I can throw it over here. The way Tar Trap works, this is what it looks like, is enemies in this Tar Trap move 50% speed. And Freezing Trap, incapacitates your enemy, and this breaks on damage. So, that's pretty much it for the rotation. Hopefully I covered it effectively and I'm not missing something huge. But if I am, just put it in the comments and I'll answer it in the comments. Alright, so let's get into the artifact talent. Okay, so now we're going to get into the artifact progression. I'm here on Wowhead on the artifact calculator. I have Talon Claw Spear of the Wild Gods pulled up, and we're going to get right into it. So, Fury of the Eagle first, of course, then Iron Talons, increasing physical damage, but you deal by 8%. You have no choice with these. Then you want to go right. Get Sharpened Fang. This increases damage dealt by Mongoose Bite by 10%. Really, really good. Then, regrettably, you have to take My Beloved Monster. If you haven't noticed, we're going straight for Bird of Prey, which gives you the Raptor Strike heal. So then straight to Bird of Prey, get the 30% Raptor Strike heal, pop over and get Talon Strike. This makes it so your basic attacks have a chance to trigger 2 rapid additional blows. This increases your damage significantly. Then IMO, you want to go and head straight for Raptor's Cry, increasing damage dealt by Raptor Strike by 5%, 10%, up to 15%. And try and get over to Aspect of the Skylord ASAP, which is going to give you 30% increased damage when you have Aspect of the Eagle up, which is going to be huge in this bursty meta. So, what am I doing? You can take Terms of Engagement here, then Raptor Strike, then Explosive Force, then Aspect of the Skylord. So this makes it so your Harpoon resets when you kill an enemy. This increases Raptor Strike damage by 15%. This increases Explosive Trap damage by 10%, which is great. Then Aspect of the Skylord is here. So then from here, IMO, you get Hunter's Guile, reducing the cooldown of your traps by 20%. And then Lacerating Talons, and then up to Eagle's Bite. And then after that, you can kind of do whatever you want, but probably Embrace of the Aspects here, into Fluffy Go, into Hunter's Bounty. And then into Hellcarver. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the artifact power. We're at 5 mil, 216,130. Good times, lots of farming. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for making it all the way through the guide. I know it was a lot of information, but thank you very much for your time and for watching. I do hope that if you did benefit from this video in any way, you might be able to comment, rate, and subscribe. It does help me out a lot. And please let me know in the comments below what other types of videos you want to see. Do you want to see more survival? Or is survival lame? Do you guys want to see more Beast Mastery, Arena, whatever it is? I'd love to have a discussion. Your comments make my day. So thanks again for the support, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.